Mr. Maddox, can we do a quick microphone test?
Yes, sir. Check 1, 2.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Right, sir.
All right, we're live and the microphones are on.
Okay, I've got 2 minutes according to my 28. I don't want to start before because I don't want to end up. I have that kind of luck. We have that kind of luck. Yes, sir. Okay, we'll just 120 seconds. There's actually something in the tropics, so
Okay, watch it start raining.
that's gonna be a good thing. That's a good sign over here. I know. That's a good sign. Which right here. It's 5:30 p.m. on Tuesday, August 10th, 2021. I call this regular meeting of the Kingsland Independent School District to order. At this time, we'll have a roll call vote. Mr. Brian Kupfel. Here. Lieutenant Colonel Kreitz. Here. Mr. David R. Garcia. Here. Ms. Elizabeth Ramos.
Here.
Mr. James Glusine. Here. Ms. Delma Salinas.
Here.
And Mr. Corey Garza is present. Let the record show that we also too have in attendance today is our Mr. Dick Maddox from the Hamlet, Demeroth, and Castillo Law Firm, along with our superintendent of schools, Dr. Cecilia Reynolds Perez. So again, let the record show the quorum of board members present, and this meeting has been posted in accordance with Government Code Chapter 551, State of Texas Open Meetings Act. At this time, we move to the moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, along with the Texas Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Again, this meeting will be live video streamed at http://bit.ly/3SROLQR. This time we move to item agenda number 4, the adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Been moved by Mr. Brian Kupfel. Is there a second?
Second.
Been seconded by Mr. David Garcia. Is there any discussion? There's no discussion. We'll proceed to vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries 7-0. Okay, item number 5, public participation. Ms. Bettis, do we have anybody that wishes to address the board at this time? Thank you, ma'am. We have none. We'll go ahead and move into item number 6, which would be communication from administration. We'll go ahead and start with item 6A, recognition of regional science fair results. That can be found in your board book on page 3. Dr. Farrell.
Good evening, board members, Dr. Perez. Our student was not able to attend. We did call and she was coming, something must have come up, but we still want to recognize her because she did a great job. She placed second place in the regional science fair at Texas A&M Corpus Christi in Life and Health Sciences. Her name is Mercedes Zapata from Harrell Elementary. We will be sending her a certificate, a t-shirt, and a medal. So we are super proud of her, and I'll try to get a picture when we can. But thank you very much.
And on behalf of the Board of Trustees, we also too want to congratulate Ms. Mercedes Zapata again for second place at the Regional Science Fair. So congratulations to you as well, Ms. Mercedes.
Also, Mr. President, just want to recognize Mr. Rodriguez as a sponsor as well.
Okay. Okay, sorry, I didn't see that. Thank you so much. Yes, again, just like Mr. Garcia, mentioned Alicia Rodriguez, which was the school sponsor. So thank you again to both of you all. Again, it's something that I think this board and this district has adopted, is the teamwork works. So that's a perfect example. We'll go ahead and move to item 6B, which is superintendent's update, HR staffing update, which can be found on page 4. That'd be Dr. Pettis and Mr. Jacob Pettis, III, our HR director.
Okay, basically, I just wanted to let you all know where we were as of 8/3. Yesterday, I believe we just got somebody that's needing to resign. And an elementary staff member, and that, anyway, we can discuss that, I guess, in closed session, but other than that, this is where we stand. We have absorbed 15 positions, which is totaling about $510,000. And that was just through attrition and the fact that we didn't need the extra staff since we have consolidated. So if it says frozen, it means we've frozen that position for now. We haven't taken it out of the budget because we want to see what the numbers are, after Labor Day, to see how many students we're going to get in. And so, and looking at the master schedules, we looked at the ones that were, close to possibly going over. So that's why we froze them. And then if we can absorb them, later, then we'll do that. So did y'all have any questions about any of this? Or anything?
Can we just go through school by school of where you got a vacancy we need to fill before the year starts? Or may be a vacancy when the year starts?
Okay, well, we've got the principals here, so they know hot off the presses as of today. And
Go
so,
school by school?
sure,
Okay, I went ahead and made a cheat sheet for myself. HMK, looks like there's a trainer, instructional teacher coach, a speech pathologist as being vacant. Is that accurate? All other classroom teachers you're covering.
Our math, we're still looking for math.
Okay, right now you've got a frozen on a math teacher. Is that who we're looking for, the frozen?
okay, can you let me know, right? Okay, so the frozen one is frozen. The one that we're going to get to do probably geometry E2020, we're thinking of reassigning someone from the middle school that has a math background. And, but if we can find that other math teacher, that would be fantastic, so.
Okay, because it doesn't show any math teachers vacant, positions vacant, but except that does have that one out for teacher frozen.
And then the trainer, I mentioned that right now we're gonna be utilizing, the university is helping us with that. And once, because we have found the trainer, but the trainer cannot start until they get that as here.
Late September.
Late
Oh,
September.
okay. So we're covered through the initial.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay. Gillette, 8th grade English, 7th grade science. Yeah, there you go.
We're only missing 1 6th, 7th grade science, and we have a parent who will hopefully take and pass the content test for the ELA test.
Okay, Harvey,
Can I stop you right there real quick, Dr. Pettis? Was that due to the promotion of the AP that went to Harvey? Is that right? 'Cause it was.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
sorry.
I got you, buddy.
Harvey,
I have 2 third grade vacancies, but I do have permanent subs in there. I do have 1 adapted unit vacancy, but I do have a permanent certified teacher in there. And then I have 1 2nd grade vacancy, but I do have a certified teacher in there as well.
okay, are these long-term subs or?
The 2 certified teachers can be, because they fall under 20, they're without work, so they're fine, they can do the whole year. The 2 third grade teachers are the permanent subs, they can stay also.
And they're on the.
They're on
because they're under the.
They're on I teach teachers, so they'll be getting their eligibility letters within the next month. I believe.
Harold, 5th grade, and 2 special ed.
I have 2nd grade, going to have a 4th grade, 5th grade, and 1 adapted unit.
Okay,
and have a staff coming into the adaptive.
so it's not, so I only had three vacancies. You're telling me there's more than that?
As of last night, yes.
That's the ones that the Pettis referred to, that we just, like yesterday, got the resignation letters. They're wanting to leave.
It's
Oh,
two.
there's multiple, not
One
one.
was gonna be a new one.
Right,
Right.
one was a new hire that's decided not to come. The other one is a teacher currently, but she's not leaving or relocating for about maybe 45 to 60 days. Going to California, so that gives us some time to get somebody to that position. The other one was a new hire that decided that she could take the position.
First grade, or Perez, first grade, fourth grade, in a special ed?
No, at this point, we just need the first grade and the fourth grade. And currently, we do have,
Central office, Teams manager, and a textbook clerk. No, I'm talking,
You're good.
you're good. I'm up to Jake now.
Yeah, we have, for the admin, you said those are two vacancies. we have.
Okay, maintenance, former, assistant HVAC, a bus aide, and three each bus drivers.
Correct.
On Gillette, on the roster that you provided, or the schedule you gave Jake, do we have 4.5 PE teachers assigned to Gillette?
Yes, sir.
What were the kids taking, like double PE periods, or?
When we offer athletics, we also offer a PE class for those students who sometimes don't fulfill all their obligations, like completing their physical or rank one, or the ones who decide that they no longer want to do athletics.
But what caught my attention was you guys have 4.5 PE teachers and the high school has 2.5. And it just seemed like that's an awful high density of coaches to students or PE teachers to students.
Well, in high school, they can take other classes that count towards PE, which is ROTC, band, athletics, cheerleading, or drill team, I think even counts for PE, so. They don't need as many
It
PE.
just struck me as kind of disproportionate, that's all. A lot of,
And I'll piggyback on Colonel. I see what you're saying, because according to the enrollment, there's 619 kids there. And then at the high school, we have almost 900 in there too. That's kind of,
Yeah.
but
I guess, you know what, okay,
We're good.
just caught my eye. That's all it is.
But the band directors, the ROTC directors, all those that count for PE offset.
Offset, okay. Do they take PE each year, July?
They can, it is only required in 6th and 7th grade.
Okay, we're at the high school, they only got to have it for 1 year, all right. At the high school, you had 4 principals, now you have 3. Does that mean that Mrs. Williams is no longer excess, but actually in an authorized slot?
Well, we have the principal, and then we have 3 assistant principals.
3 assistants.
Right, so we have Mr. Torres, we have Ms. Williams, and then we have Chapaleta, the 3.
Part of that, though, you had 4 there, but one's gone now, so I assumed that the
No.
excess would move into the
No, we didn't have 4.
opinion.
we would have had 4.
Oh, we would have had.
Right.
Would have had 4.
Oh,
Now
yes,
you have 3, so I'm just assuming that that's just,
we absorbed it.
okay.
Mhm.
So that means that, so Tanya Williams is no longer, but we
Yeah.
follow that.
And that's it, right.
College readiness, it's listed twice. Once with a position filled and once with a position vacant. Is that just a misprint or it's frozen? College readiness is frozen.
That one's frozen and
But above, there's an actual college readiness that's
being taught by someone.
being taught by someone.
Right.
Current step. What is college readiness?
Avid.
Well, thank you.
Anybody have any other?
Yeah, where, so I just want to go back to the food service. I counted 6, we had 6 vacancies, and I know that we did combine the schools, a couple of schools there, so we okay with that, you?
Well, we worked closely, and I know Mr. Pettis did work also closely with Ms. Butler and so did Dr. Pitts to find out, okay, how many she needed. But considering that we consolidated, it was significantly less.
schools that we're gonna be in. Okay, so we're good.
And something caught my eye, prior to coming in for Perez Elementary. You look at the teachers column on the right. Look at kinder, you have a teacher, 3 down. I don't want to say hey. And then if you look at second grade, 3 down. They're the same person? Kinder, 3 down, second grade, down 3. The same names.
When, I know that she did a flip, so that may be probably there. Let me look at the draft that's been done before. Yes, that one is not doing kinder, she's doing second grade. Looks like it.
So we don't need a kinder teacher for. Three is enough.
We have 3 kinder teachers, Right,
3
kinder and 4 second grade.
So that's all good. I just saw that.
Yeah, the one that's listed on kinder, Mr. Pettis,
Yes, now I see it.
yeah,
So that,
that one you scratch off.
the Kindle we're scratching off.
That one's coming up.
Because she's already on the second grade.
Okay,
Second
gotcha.
grade.
Thank you.
So do any principals have any concerns with school opening in a couple weeks? They've got a hole that they might not be able to fill, or they don't have a solution for right now?
Well, as of last night, the one we got, Mr. Pettis is working with IT, or who?
I teach and teachers for tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Now, you say the Frozens, we're gonna hold off until we're a little way into the school year before we actually cut the cord or not. They are all in the budget right now.
Correct.
Okay, so when if we decide that, okay, we can absorb them, we need them, those positions to be filled, that would go toward deficit reduction and or
Right,
something.
correct.
Okay, and that will be reported similar to this concept. This is a good
Just-
concept.
Yeah, just like I did.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else has any further questions when it comes to superintendent's update regarding HR staffing for the upcoming 21-22 school year? Great, thank you, Dr. Pettis and Principal and Mr. Pettis, thank you so much.
Sure.
Go ahead and move on to item 6C, 2020-2021 financial integrity rating system. This is the first preliminary rating that can be found on page 17 in your board book. Dr. Peter Pitts.
Good evening, Board President, Mr. Garza, Superintendent Dr. Pettis, members of the board. Every year, we receive a financial rating from TEA. It is delayed a year because of the audit. We just finished the audit for 2019-2020 in January of this year, January of 2021. So now TEA is coming out with the first rating from that year, from 2019-2020. The preliminary rating that they are assigning us is an 88. Out of the 12 points that we lost, 10 of them are associated with the amount of debt we have to the amount of fund balance that we have. We will be assigned a final first rating in November, and after that time, either in December or in January, we have to schedule a public meeting where we will go through all of these indicators one by one and explain them. We just wanted to bring this to you at this time to give you a foreshadowing of what is to come. Again, 88 is the rating, and the biggest part of it, again, 10 of those 12 points are based on the amount of debt we have compared to our fund balance that we have. At this time, I'll take any questions.
Is that spread out over multiple indicators or just?
Yes, so if you take a look at,
Was it what, 92 last time?
92 or 91, I don't recall.
we had a 96 last year.
Okay.
So if you look at indicator 8, there were 10 possible points, and we had 4 assigned. So we lost 6 points there. Again, that is current assets to current liabilities. We also lost 2 points in indicator 11, which is long-term liabilities to total assets. And then 2 points in indicator 12, debt of assessed property value ratio sufficient to support future debt. So all three of those indicators have to do with our amount of debt to our amount of funds to pay that debt. There's only one that we lost 2 points on that doesn't have to relate with that, which is indicator 13, which has to do with administrative cost ratio. That is basically the amount of money that we are paying out of this building divided by the amount of money that we are paying for most of the functions on the campus level, except for administration on the campus level, that's excluded.
How close are we on?
On 13, we're about a third of the way from 10 points. So we're closer to 10 points than we are to 8 points. So
How many dollars? What was, what that would be, 100,000, 100,000?
I can research that and get that to you.
And because we have, well, I guess we have some excess people.
One of the things that affects that is this is only 199. So when we're moving instruction to ESSER, and again, the purpose of ESSER is to address learning loss. Obviously, everything else that the district needs to continue operations as well too. But the more we move of learning loss to ESSER 3, that decreases the amount of instruction that is in 199, which unfortunately has a negative impact on that particular indicator.
Okay. So the short-term debt, and I know we have the bonds that go out for what, 25 years or something like that. What's the short-term debt issue? What kind of short-term debt do we have that it exceeds our?
Well, it takes a look at the fund balance that you have. It takes a look at the revenues that you have coming in every year and your expenditures every year. And then it takes a look at also, well,
I mean, we were warned that the long-term debt.
Right.
Could be a problem down the road. Nobody ever mentioned short-term debt.
On financial statements, included in short-term debt is that year's long-term debt payment.
That year's long-term debt payment.
In other words,
Yeah.
20 years, you've got,
Okay.
this number of payments or whatever.
So 1 year long-term debt goes into the current year's
Yeah,
short.
because it's something that's due within the next 12 months.
every year we have $5 million approximately $5 million of debt that we're paying that year.
Now, this is not to be confused that this is a necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it's something to watch, it's something to monitor, but we knew the debt was coming, that we walked into.
Yes.
It's the price of the new schools, it's the price of the new domes. I mean, that's all factored in to this being at 88, but it doesn't, we're not borrowing any money, so therefore it's not going to affect our interest rate. Is it? Because all our interest rates are locked in.
So the one thing that it could affect is if we go out for bond refundings and try to refinance some of our current debt for a lower interest rate. It's possible that we might not be able to get as good of an interest rate, but so far we have been able to maintain our bond rating based on what we're doing to eliminate that debt and also what we're doing in the district instructionally as well too has an impact on our bond rating as well too.
It is extremely, I'd be surprised if we had an opportunity to refinance anymore. I mean, I can't imagine rates going any lower than they are right now. On the second page of that report, I believe it's number 15.
Okay.
And number 19, total max was 5 points in those, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And I will be, I am required to present this in detail at a public meeting. And once we get our final first rating in November, then we will schedule either in December or January, the public meeting, and we'll go over each of these indicators one by one. We also have to go over last year's rating too, kind of as a comparison between the two.
Which would actually be 2 years ago.
Correct.
And I think that's important to note publicly is that this is a report from 2 years ago. And some situations having to be changed.
Any other questions?
Does anybody have any further questions for Dr. Pitts regarding the 2020-2021 financial integrity rating system tests on the first preliminary rate? If not, thank you, Dr. Pitts.
You're welcome.
We'll go ahead and move on to item 6D, budget recap report, check registry for June 2021. This can be found on page 20. Dr. Pitts.
I will talk about a few of the high expenditures near the top of the list and then open up for questions. Our health insurance, that's our monthly payment. Our electricity, that's about what we pay per month. The one other one that's making an appearance at the top of the list is our appraisal district fees. We pay that quarterly. So you'll see that on the check register for the 3rd month, the 6th month, the 9th month, and the 12th month. So the next time you'll see that will be in September. You'll see that we did buy quite a bit of technology, iPads and laptops near the top. The safety and security grant paid for the HMK intercom at the high school, that was finished. We have about $3,000 left in that safety and security grant that we're planning to use for walkie-talkies. You also see utilities, the city utility billing for water and trash services. That happens to be for 2 months. We just happen to get a bill at the very beginning of the month and at the end of the month, but that was payment for 2 months. I will take any other questions that you have on the check register.
I have 3.
Okay.
Locks and lock supplies. Are we locking ourselves out?
No, if you remember, when we had done the facility audit, we had determined that at Pettis and at Harrell, the classroom locks were all different. We couldn't get in with one key into each of those. So we rekeyed all the classrooms at Harrell and at Pettis. So that's the expense there that you see.
At the very bottom of the page, Coastal Bend College, $3,811.30 for tuition. I mean, do we know how many credits that buys?
That's something I'll have to look into.
I'm just curious what, and I don't ever recall seeing a tuition payment to any other university other than Coastal Bend.
To move, we have from time to time, but usually it's only 1 or 2 students for a class, but it is mostly CBC.
But to Cameron?
To TAMU, from time to time, we'll have 1 or 2 students take the class.
And last thing, can I, later, I'd like to go hear the intercom in ROTC. I'd just like to hear it.
So what we could do, Colonel, we could actually, I think Dr. Pettis has sent out an email. Just set it up with Dr. Pettis and then we'll be get you on this.
Just so I can hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I don't think there'll be a problem. Yeah, and I think, like I said, I want to say about 3 weeks ago, Dr. Pettis, you sent out an email. So I know there's a.
I don't want to see anything else, just hear.
Yeah, no, and that's good. But again, keep in mind that we will not allow anybody or 3 or more board members to go in there because it could be considered a walking forum. So again, please have those, if you do want to try and see some of those campuses before they start the school, please send an email. And I know Dr. Pettis will coordinate with the directors, administrators appropriately so that we can get you in there to kind of see what's going on and go from there.
Yeah.
Sound fair to everybody?
2 of them are on already.
Okay, good.
And then you-
Anything else?
I have a question, mainly just being interested. On the first page, it says City of Kingsville, fire safety and sprinkler inspections for $5,700. Is that what they're charging us for inspections and permitting, or is that what costs that, are you serious?
This is a new gimmick
Yep.
or revenue
We can't go down to the City of Kingsville and ask for a waiver?
for the city and all businesses. They call you and say, we're gonna come inspect your stuff, and oh, by the way, here's the fee associated with it. My question on that was, do you know if it was a per campus fee? Was it a fee per system? It infuriates me, but that's.
I can get some more information on that, Mr. Koval. I do not know at this time the breakdown of that.
Well, I know the City of Kingsville does waivers for people, so I'd really like to see if they do a waiver for us.
I can look into that. Mr. Ross.
That's an enormous amount of money for turning an inspection.
And it's annual.
Again, so again, if I guess, Joe, we get going, if you all, Dr. Perez, could look into that. But again, I don't want any board member to take the liberty into calling or even going there on the board's behalf, because I'm telling you right now, if I find out, I'll sanction you. And I have every right to. Anything else? We have here the reimbursement for Iris Lynn Marks of Alumba. Is she a parent? I believe she might be a parent, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, and are our parents buying things and we have to reimburse them? Is that a custom that we have, or?
A lot of times parents will pay for a student to attend a conference or workshop, and then if for some reason that conference or workshop is canceled or the parent doesn't go, then that money is routinely reimbursed to them.
Is it a sponsorship or is it their students? Is it their kid?
No, it's usually for their kid. They pay for their kid to go.
I have a question that I will bring back with Mr. Maddox available when it comes to the check registry, when it comes to a personnel matter in the back. So I'll bring that up, Mr. Maddox, when we get to the back. I know it's happened before, but not going to bring it up in public. I have one. Anybody else have anyone? I have a one. Water and Gatorade for cheerleaders, $500. Are we drinking special water, you guys Gatorade, or how does that work?
Well, that is a student activity fund. So they raise the money and they are allowed to purchase what they need. That's normally for a cheer camp that they go to. You're wondering the quantity for it?
I think that and I don't think this board has ever been informed of student activity. I know we've talked about it,
Right.
how many that each organization can do and how many others can do. I know that when it comes to booster clubs, and again, I know I'm getting off on the weeds and I'm not going to, but again, I just want to make sure that there's fair and equitability across the board when it comes to every organization that has something like that. But I know their activity count, which I know for a fact can be used for anything, but I just want to make sure that, again, that a lot of these clubs and different organizations understand that they have the right to use their activity fund, which has nothing to do with how they spend it. Am I correct?
Yes, and it doesn't affect our general fund at all. These are funds that are raised by the students and used for the students.
And again, I think as we get going, it can get murky because, well, I want to put it here, I want to put it there, but I think we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
But the students determine how that money is spent. The student activity account, because they have to have a meeting, they have to have minutes, the people have to attend the meeting, need to sign it, and it needs to be submitted to Ms. Ramos, the bookkeeper. I mean, there are rules. I mean, it's hard to get $1 out of the activity account. You gotta go through the
Yeah, the
kids.
students and the sponsor together determine what they need. And so they could have used that for the cheerleader camp if they did. It's up to them. They're raising the money as long as we're making sure that they're spending it appropriately.
Also, with the cheerleaders, they just have to come up, but there's an enterprise rental car. Do we not have a Suburban for them or something? Like this?
We do have vehicles that they can use. There are different organizations though that will rent a vehicle, but that's something that sometimes we don't have a vehicle available at the time on that day. We only have a certain number of vehicles available, and sometimes they'll need a vehicle like for a cheer camp or something for several days. So they'll have to take a vehicle out of commission for a while, and if we can't afford to do that, then they'll run a vehicle.
But this is for June, right? This registry is for June?
That is correct.
So there was other things going on
Oh, I know there was a summer camp that they went to. Yes,
that they had to rent one of the Suburbans?
yes.
I used to rent Suburbans all the time because it was cheaper to rent a Suburban than to take one out of the motor pool. KISD charged me more for a rent, for a SUV or something. They charged more than what Enterprise did. So
We charge per mile.
Yeah, so it was cheaper to rent an Enterprise vehicle on my
KISD budget than to go to KISD's motor pool and get a vehicle issued to me for whatever. And I did it all the time because it was a cheaper for me as an organization. And that might be the motivation for that vehicle. It was a cheaper alternative.
How was the convenience factor?
What?
Was it just as convenient?
It was a wash. A vehicle was a vehicle. Once you give me the keys, I can take it where I want. But the thing was, when it came time to settle up at the end of the trip, KISD charged me more than Enterprise. So I went with Enterprise. Might be something we'll all look at.
We were trying to go after that budget.
It's just,
No,
it
you're
was just, it was, I mean, that's why I think some organizations choose to rent a car because it's cheaper for them when they look at their KISD budget.
Any other
Save your money
questions?
by spending money.
True. Any other questions for Dr. Pitts when it comes to the check registry? All right, well, thank you, Dr. Pitts, appreciate it.
You're welcome.
We'll go ahead and move to item 7, which is the new business. We'll go to item 7A, by common consent, the board agrees to consider as one action item the following. This can be found on pages 28 through 41. First, approval of special board meeting minutes of August 5th, 2021. Approval of monthly investment report for June 2021. Approval of tax report for June 2021. Approval of monthly financial report for June 2021. And approval of 2020-2021 budget amendment number 2. Do I hear a motion?
So move.
Been moved by Lieutenant Colonel Kreitz. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And second by Ms. Delma Salinas. Do we have any discussion?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
When it comes to the budget amendment number 2, page 40,
Yes, ma'am.
41, can you explain to us and the public what that amendment was?
Yes. So this is the second budget amendment of the year, and in the past, we have done several during the year. At the beginning of each year, you project where you're going to spend your money. You not only pass the budget, but you also allocate a certain amount of money in each function. Normally, whenever money is needed in one area instead of another, you submit a transfer to move the money from one account to another account. However, when the money is in a separate function or purpose, it goes before the board to move that money. So that's where we are in this particular case right here. So if you're looking at function 21, so I guess I could put this up on the screen if it would help. And can you make it, maybe make it. So if the way that you read this is if you look at, let's see if this works. Oh, it does. Okay, so if you look at, can you scroll over a little bit to the right and make it a little bit smaller? Okay, perfect. So these are the different accounts that we're amending right now in this column right here. So the first one, function 21, instructional leadership. Again, we have a few extra instructional expenditures we're spending there. This is out of 21 is instructional expenditures out of the district that are district-wide for the entire district. Social work services, we had originally at the beginning of the year had one less person from CIS. We did add an extra person for CIS. General administration, we had several additional expenditures. We had, for one, the appraisal district went up with their fee. For 2, we had election costs from last year that were not charged until this year. For maintenance and operations, you see that minus 335. The reason why we didn't spend as much in maintenance and operations as we budgeted is because we have been paying some of the utilities out of ESSER. So that's why you see that negative there. The security and monitoring, again, we had an SRO this year. And then the data processing, we had two big things. One, we had an upgrade where we haven't upgraded our software in I think 7 or 8 years, and it's getting to the point where it couldn't be supported anymore. And then the other big thing that we had there was also the online registration, which has been a huge success. So that's the reason for the budget amendment at this time. And again, normally in the past, we would have brought this earlier in the year, but we don't really see a need of every time in the middle of the year when we change an expenditure or have a new need to bring it to you. The only time that it's needed to come to the board is when it's going to exceed in that function and before the year close out in August. So this is what we are proposing for the budget amendment to. I'll take any other questions.
And so when all this is said and done, you're probably gonna end up using the plant maintenance and operation to take care of these other expenditures, and we should be $100,000 ahead.
Well, so those should, correct, exactly. So those should balance out altogether the 40,000, 20, 100,000, 25, and 150,000. That should be a positive 335,000 with a negative 335 with the maintenance. So it is basically a transfer of funds, but when it is done from one function to another, it's called an amendment. It requires board approval.
One follow-up. So let's go up to the top
Okay.
where it says up to function 11. So in the coming year, we approve the budget later this month.
Correct.
And there'll be a number there in function 11 for instructional.
Yes.
And then October comes, we decide that some of these frozen positions, we're not going to hire positions for. That's where it'll reflect a change in the number.
We could at that time, we could do an amendment and move some of the money from instruction to another function, correct? If we decided we don't need those positions.
Okay, so that's how it would happen. It'd be the
Yes,
same process.
exactly, same process.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Dr. Fitz when it comes to budget amendment for 2021? Okay, again, there is a motion in front of the board, made by Lieutenant Colonel Hvac, second by Ms. Delmas. Discussion has taken place. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Dr. Fitz. Okay, move on to item 7B, consider approval of revised 2021-2022 instructional calendar. This can be found on page 42 of the board book. Dr. Johnny Sandoval.
Good evening, Board President, Board of Trustees, Dr. Pettis. I'm here to present the revised instructional calendar for 2021-22. We met about two and a half weeks ago, I think 3 weeks ago, in regards to instructional calendar. We were looking to see how we could best make changes to the calendar because there was an issue with personnel this year, 2021, in regards to the last instructional day or the last work day falling on the 5th, which was a Saturday. So when we came together to look at the calendar, we noticed that there was a day in our calendar that we could possibly take out, which was February the 7th. And by taking out February the 7th, which was there because attendance had been poor in previous years, Super Bowl has changed this year. It's no longer going to be on the 6th, it's going to be on the 13th. And there's really not a need for that day where it was in the calendar. Apparently we had poor attendance on the day following the Super Bowl, so that was I think, possibly a decision at the time. So by removing, and we made some changes to the calendar, by making one specific change, there was kind of a snowball effect in terms of other changes that needed to be made to the calendar. And then there were also some changes that were made based off academic calendar because the changes came from TA. And then there were some other changes that were made just based on the fact that now was an opportunity to clean it up, based on some things that might confuse, the public and, our staff. So I can review some of those major changes, and then I can, take any questions you might have about possible changes. I'll start off with that February 7th, 2022, stock show holiday removed one day. So in our new revised calendar, the 7th is not a holiday. We had to, on the side calendar that we have there, the legend, February 2/7/2022, it changed to February 2, effectively the 4th. The June 3rd, 2022 early release was changed to June the 2nd, 2022. The June 3rd, 2022 in the fourth 9-week period changed to June the 2nd. Also, the end of the semester changed from June the 3rd to June the 2nd. The high school graduation changed from June the 4th, and the teacher workday changed to the 3rd now. So everything got pushed back or moved up a day. The March 25th, 2027, on our side calendar, it's at legend. It changed from 47 days to 48 days because we took that February 7th day out. And the June 3rd, 2022, again, this is on the legend for June. It changed from 48 days to 47 days because we took a day out for that second part of the semester. So those are the major revisions that were made pertaining to the February 7th date having to be changed. Some of those major changes that happened to the academic calendar, the EOC English 1 and 2 testing were separated so that we put specifically April 5th and English 1 and April 7th English 2. April 5th through the 7th, 5th through the 8th, 2022, we removed the 5/8 because they're no longer requiring that for graduate or for promotion purposes. So that was taken out. April 22nd, 2022, STAR all testing was changed the end date changed to April the 29th. May 10th, 2022, STAR changed to 3 through 8th grade for math, and we removed the 5 and 8 math retests. Same thing for May the 11th, STAR changed to 3 to 8 for reading, and we removed the 5 to 8 retests. Some of the other changes that we made that were more to make this a more appeasing calendar and easier to look at. The bell schedules, we also had the information in regards to intermediates, and Gillette is no longer intermediate, it's Gillette Middle School. So we took out any reference to intermediate in the bell schedules. In the legend, we had symbols to represent staff development, teacher work days, and in the calendar was already highlighted a certain color. So that was confusing some of our staff members. So we took out the little symbols that represented professional development and teacher work days and just left it the highlighted color that it was already highlighted. And the other thing that we did, we went ahead and reshuffled all the calendar to start off with July 2021 being the first day in the calendar versus July 2020 being at the end of the calendar. That was confusing for a lot of us because our school year basically starts in July in terms of the things that we start doing for the academic school year. Any questions in regards to the revisions to the academic calendar for 2021-22?
I know there was some talk about, we have Memorial Middle School, and I know there was some interest in keeping the name Gillette. Somehow, no. No, okay, it was mentioned during the walkthrough, that's Kupala, and I'm like.
I didn't know, so you're looking at it right now.
Dr. Sandoval, the only question I have is, I know that your DEIC committee met, but were all departments and department heads part of the new calendar that you all were working with? Would they have any input?
I sent it all back in July, and I have the email, and I copied board members as well.
Correct.
And said, please make sure you look over this. I kind of detailed some of the things to highlight, and I asked them to make sure they reach out to their DEIC representatives or their principals. And then we sent out again. the date of when the DIC was gonna meet. And then, so you sent out.
And then we sent the calendar out again, with the annotated version that you're seeing on the screen there, so they can see the actual changes that were made. We sent it out, I think, the day before.
The only feedback I got like 2 emails saying, thank you for getting rid of that Saturday workday.
Right.
And I guess it was the first year Kingsville had done that, but I didn't understand it either, so I'm glad we did it.
Thank you, Dr. Pettis and Anderson.
I want to say that I'm pleased that you're going back to school on February 7th. However, in your annotated revisions, we have never said it was a stock show holiday. It was a holiday because it was the day after the Super Bowl. And to call it, I think calling it a stock show holiday is being disingenuous to the community. And as I said, I'm happy that we're going back. I'm not going to bring anything forward on this because I'm happy with the changes, but I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Calling it a stock show holiday was, it's misnaming.
And it had been called that.
That's what it.
It's always been
It's always
called,
been called that.
unfortunately.
Because we had always been told that the reason that we had done that was because of Super
And
Bowl.
that's why I think Dr. Sandoval was trying to be transparent.
And
He's
well,
probably the
that's,
first one to say it.
that's what I'm bringing up to the board is it was never an extra day for the stock show because the Sunday is a holiday after the stock show. And so I'm getting for this or whoever makes this calendar.
It's called a school day now, right?
It's a school day now, and I'm happy to have that, but I
Yeah.
just wanted to bring that forward.
Yeah, we understood.
So if there's gonna be a Super Bowl, what, the 13th?
That's Sunday.
Right.
Well, lucky for us, Monday is the 14th, which is Valentine's Day, and most people want to be at school on Valentine's Day,
Right.
because, you know, they're Valentines.
Are we prepared for that either way? I'm just saying.
This year, hopefully it'll work for us.
Okay, in that, I'll go ahead, entertain a motion to, again, the recommendation by administration is to recommend the revised 2021-2022 instructional calendar that has been presented by Dr. Sandoval and Dr. Pettis. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Been made by Ms. Elizabeth Ramos. Is there a second? And second by Ms. Thelma Salinas. Any further discussion? If there's no any further discussion, we'll go ahead and proceed to a vote. All those in favor of the revised 2021-22 instructional school year calendar, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Item 7C, consider approval of second reading of localized policy update 117 can be found on page 46. Dr. Sandoval.
Thank you, Mr. Garza. Update 117 includes recommended local policy revisions to the leave to absences policy and an optional delegation to the superintendent to serve emergency contracts. Update 117 recommends changes to local policies addressing the following topics. Purchasing and acquisition, which is CH local, which they are asking to revise it based on their recommendations. Vendor disclosures and contract, which is CHE local. They are asking that we delete it. Facilities, construct, which is CV local, they're asking us to revise. And leave and absences, which is DEC local, they're also asking us to revise. Mr. All right, so here are the 4 policies that are up for second reading. CH local, which, you know, again, we're asking to replace. CH local, which we're asking to delete. CV local, replace, and DEC local, which is being asked to replace. I'll take any questions at this time in regards to the second reading.
Yeah, a couple of questions. I think the policy's all right, except it defers the superintendent shall develop regulations for the information of the sick leave pool that addresses the following. First of all, do we have a sick leave pool currently?
Mr. Bennett?
No. Okay. So, and there's not a requirement that we have one.
Right.
Okay, So if we have one or don't have one, that's 100% the discretion of the superintendent.
That's right.
My thoughts are sick leave days have a dollar value. And if my sick leave day is worth $100, but the person that's using the sick value of the sick leave day is $250, that doesn't balance out. So instead of doing it on a day basis, if we should decide to have a policy, maybe we should do it on a dollar basis and then set a set value for what a sick leave pool day is worth. And that's what you would get. That way it keeps the books kind of balanced that way a little bit. The other thing is, payments for accumulated sick leave. I brought this up once before. We need to have the rate set at $25 a day.
No, it's your daily rate.
No, this is when you retire, you have local days on the books.
Right. If you retire with the district, you would get paid your daily rate up to 480 hours, which is 60 days would be the max. That's about, it used to be 25.
Okay, I didn't know that. When did that change? And
I don't know when it changed, but.
I'm trying to go back retroactively. I got 25.
If you could put it in fund balance.
Okay,
Okay, so it's your daily rate then.
Daily rate, or for non-exempt, your hourly rate. That's why they say 480 hours, which is 60 days, is the max that you would
Okay,
get.
that was always the same, 60, but it was 25, I guess.
Right.
Else changed it. All right.
It's
Never mind.
when you retire.
Again, that looks like that's, how does that read? Does that read that way? Oh, no, it says at a rate established by the board. Is how it's read in the policy.
What page are you on?
What?
What page are you on?
On the marked up version, it's page 7 of 7, and page 7 of 4. It's the same language on page 82, the clean version. I don't know, I just think that for clarification's sake, maybe we ought to say that's the rate. So that people know, because again, I'm sitting up here thinking it's $25 a day, you're ripping me off. And you did rip me off. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions when it comes for Dr. Sandoval or Dr. Best when it comes to the second reading of localized policy update 117 that was brought down forth from the attorney?
I have a question and then I have a comment. Well, I'll start with a comment. I really don't like how they bulk these all in one vote. And for future reference, we can pull. Can we pull and then vote as one as a group and then pull one and vote on one later? Does that make sense? Or at a different time? Is that how that's supposed to work? Let me check on that.
I can ask Mr. Maddox. Mr. Maddox? Can you hear us? Okay, Ms. Elizabeth Ramos has a question. I don't know if you heard the question.
Well, I'll just repeat it. I don't, sometimes in these bulk, policy revisions, there's like 1 or 2 in there I have concerns with. Instead of voting all on them in the same pile, can we ask to remove one and put on a future agenda and vote on the path without the one being removed?
You certainly can. Your motion will need to reflect which ones you are reserving for future consideration. And it's the same effect as that policy change not getting approved, but the rest will.
The rest will. I just want to verify that because it's not written that way on the agenda. I just wanted to state, yeah, there's some things in here I don't feel comfortable about, but when it comes to sick leave, can you explain how COVID works with this? So the way you got COVID, they exhaust their sick pay, their vacation pay, and then we as a district take over the, okay. We have
That resolution ended June 5th. COVID leave or health, that's the way I call it, COVID leave, ended June 5th. So they haven't changed anything since. So at this point, if they have COVID and they're out sick, just like the flu, they use their personal and sick leave.
After that, they can use FMLA or extended sick leave.
Depends on their predicament.
And I guess that would be something that the employee would get with their director or their administrator, and they would get with Mr. Bettis and his group, and they would determine. But I do agree with you, Mr. Ramos, but I think the reason why these come bundled and is because those are the way they come from KISD. But again, I don't think there, like Mr. Maddox said, there is no set stone that we can't pull or go forward. But again, and if that is in the future or tonight, if somebody wants to do that, we definitely pull it. But again, I think a lot of it comes through what KISD sends us, and we just kind of take it as a with everything.
And that's for every district in the state of Texas.
Pretty much.
We're all different. Is that an amendment on this one to add that verbiage on or no? Because I need to know how we're voting if that's gonna be added on.
Well, okay, hold on, say that again.
Bryce wanted, did you not want the verbiage to be? said something
It's
different?
irrelevant because it all stands with the superintendent. Oh, that one line about the.
Yes, or the amount.
I just think for clarification, it says set by board policy. It's just, maybe we should put that policy in there. That's all my comment.
So what we can do as a board, we can go back to minutes prior and look for it. Now, when that happened, I can't sit here and answer because I'd be talking, I'm not gonna make a claim that I don't know, but I mean, there's something I think that.
You could vote on it, and it has no effect on the policy
Correct.
itself, because it says it's according to board policy. I just think it might be nice to have it in there.
Absolutely. And I think he's correct, but I think with Mr. Bettis giving this clarification that it is gone up, that's something I know him and his staff, when they do their exit interview, am I correct?
Yes, sir.
That you do explain to them, correct?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Maddox, a quick question. Have you, I know last time you were present at the first reading of the localized policy update 117 that was sent down to Ms. Christie Godwin. Went over, have you had a chance to look at these readings that have come, the localized policies that have come through KISD?
Yes, Mr. President, I have reviewed those in my meetings with other school districts. A lot of it is some of it's at the discretion of the board because a lot of those are local policies. And we do have a multiple reading policy here in Kingsville. So if you had the first one with Christy Godin, is this your final one?
Yes, sir.
Catch up in that meeting. Okay. Yes, sir. I have reviewed them, as I said, and if the board doesn't have any issues with them, I don't have any on the legal side.
Thank you, sir.
I just noticed something, Corey.
Yes, sir.
On page 79, state personal leave, it goes through and it says that you're limited to each employee should earn 5 paid days per school year. Local leave shall accumulate to a maximum of 50 leave days. Are we talking local leave or are we talking state leave? State leave's 50. State leave. But when we go, they call it local leave, and then you come over here on page 82 at the very bottom, and it says we're going to pay off at 60 days of local leave when you retire.
Right.
Okay. Is that 50 local leave shall accumulate? Is that local leave? Is that an accurate way to describe those days? It's local leave because it's not local days; it's state days. Teachers think of it in terms of state days, local days, right? But they're calling it local leave. So here it says you're capped at 50, and that's really the state cap, right? But
There are also local days. We used to have, when we didn't have so many holidays in the calendar, we would have maybe 235 days on the calendar but employees only had to work 227 based on their contract. So they would have about 8 extra local leave days. Now with all the holidays in the calendar, there's really only, I think, one, I believe, Mr. Pettis?
Right.
One extra local day.
those days are not local days, though, that we're talking about here. I mean, I understand that's what we're calling them, maybe colloquially, but teachers see local days as the days the district gives me, and state days are the days I get because I signed my contract. And we've got a confusing thing there because one says you get 50, and over here it says 60 is what I can cash in. I'll never get to 60 because I just think we need to correct that, call that those 50 days state days, not local leave. It's not local, it's state leave. state leave days. You identify, we've asked to take it, you have to identify, I want state days or local days. When you put your request in for. I don't see that as being a major thing. I mean, you can do a pen and ink change right now, vote on the policy. I don't see that as a major issue. Just for purposes of accuracy. That's what 80 says, and does that conflict with what on page 8, what page 82 says, and I say it does.
It's all part of the new update by TASB?
Well, yeah, I don't know, I don't think any of us wrote it. So it's
No, but I'm saying, is it part of the new recommendations that are coming from TASB?
Correct, yes.
Again, we can have a motion if it does, and have somebody either strike or add in something when it comes to the motion. That's what the board intends to do.
I didn't even notice the first time I read it.
Exactly.
As long as HR understands that there's a difference, I guess that's all that really matters. But
And again,
inconsistency.
Right. And Mr. Pettis, and again, I know that you and your staff go over all this on the final. So I'll go ahead and move this. This is the second reading.
Mr. Garza, can I have a question?
Absolutely, sir.
On page 56, when it comes to, and maybe it could be towards, the question would be for Mr. Maddox, but if you see there, where it says legal tip, includes a reference to additional leave as reasonable accommodation. With COVID coming up, a lot of people, I know there was a study that a lot of teachers and things like this, Mr. Maddox, are gonna be saying that they cannot be in the classroom, but they still can teach, and we have to accommodate that, okay? Is that true, or how is that gonna affect us later on, after they've taken all their leave? You know, would we be in violation of EEOC, if we do not provide that, or?
Yeah, so that's a good question. And at the beginning of COVID, districts were doing all they can to provide them the most amount of leave that anyone needed. That was before we went remote. And then sort of towards the middle, they reined that in a little bit. My advice is that we address COVID leave specifically, even more than we already have if necessary, by adding an exhibit to our leave policy that deals with that specifically. We do have a couple of versions of that drafted that I could send to the board for your review. The best way to handle that is to simply have a local policy for it. Otherwise, we are getting in the weeds about questions regarding employee rights and leave.
And again, Mr. Garcia, thank you. And we, Dr. Pettis, myself, and Mr. Maddox had the discussion probably about 2:30 today. So thank you for bringing it up, because that's something we'll talk about when it comes to legal matters and personnel in the back. But thank you for bringing it up forward, because we did have a discussion earlier about this whole COVID thing. So thank you. Again, I move that, again, that we accept the second reading of localized policy update 117 that's been presented by staff. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Brian Kufal. Any further discussion? I'll just go on the record saying I know that some board members do have some concerns. Keep in mind that I know as we get going, we can definitely, and we've talked about this prior, but we can definitely always change the policy if we have to, because the policy belongs to the district, to the board and the district. So again, any other further discussion? If not, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Motion carries 6-1 with Ms. Elizabeth Ramos voting nay. Thank y'all. Thank you, Dr. Sandoval. Please stay up there, buddy. 7D, consider approval of TA approved innovative, course Entrepreneurship 2 that can be found on page 92. Dr. Sandoval.
Thank you, Mr. Garza. Entrepreneurship 2 has been added to the CTE Entrepreneurship Program of Study as a level 3 course to complete the program. This course is a TA approved innovative course that must have local board approval to implement in our district. Innovative courses may only satisfy elective credit course towards graduation requirements. Just to give you a little background on CTE courses, it is recommended by TEA in order to have a true program of study, you should have courses, level 1 through 4 courses, meaning the kid will take level 1 beginning freshman year, and by their senior year, they're taking a level 4 course, which is going to get them into some kind of practicum or some kind of work-based program. Currently, our entrepreneurship program of study does not have a level 3 course. That's where we're adding the Entrepreneurship 2. It is a TA approved innovative course already, so all we are asking that the board approve this recommendation of this innovative course at this time.
Dr. Sandro, do you happen to have a idea of any other district around the area that's doing this as well?
And for this course specifically?
Yes, sir.
I could tell you, sir, I don't,
So we probably be the first around the area.
I'd have to look into that.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Is that course being offered this year?
It is being offered, correct.
So the kids had a chance to sign up for the course.
Then we'd have to find a different course.
What?
We would have to find a different course for them if we decide not to approve this innovative. course.
Okay, they did this, the scheduling on the basis that they assumed the board would approve. Okay. So,
Yeah,
oh, that's fine. I mean, that's a smart thing to do. You know, so it'll be offered this year. And it differs from entrepreneurship 1.
Correct. One of the requirements, if you look at the page 93, it talks about the goals and outcomes of this course is for students to have their business launched by the end of the course and have the tools necessary to launch and operate their business. It's getting to the practical use of the knowledge that we get in the program and having to apply it into, you know, a specific not job, but a business you're trying to build. So it takes it to another level. Also with the funding that comes with CTE, this falls into that, you know, upper tier courses that get that 1.48, was it 1.48, Dr. Pitts, I believe? It's 1.48, it's a weighted funding. This course falls under that, so we're getting additional funding for a course such as
So
this.
they write like a business plan and.
Correct. That's one of the teaks of this course.
Is it similar? And the one thing I can think of, it's similar is when the livestock show projects, you know, where they got to put together their project notebook. That's, is that, am I thinking?
Yeah, they've got, it's like doing a proposal, like a business plan, and making it actually come to life.
But they're not actually starting a business or a pseudo business, are they? Or are they?
It's very possible that they can't correct.
Okay. All right. And this is not, when I say level 3, I'm not confusing that with tier 3, am I?
Now, that's tier 3 in regards to the weighted, the weights for GPA, that's a different.
Okay, this is something, this is CT.
This is CT tier.
Okay, fair enough, thank you.
And this most likely falls within the slash business portion of the.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Dr. Sandro? Any other questions?
Yeah, there's one question.
Yes, sir.
Have any interest? Do we know if there, how much interest there was? I mean, if it's there and they had a chance to register for it.
Mr. Milan, would you have the?
I don't have those numbers right now, but I get them to you. I can let you know what, how many people signed up for it.
The section, the course made, we know it's in the schedule, so we would have to have, you know, somewhere around the middle of 9 to 10 students showing interest in that course. And because there has not been a course in previous years, there is, you know, students that are interested in it too, you know, as I mentioned earlier, it does build that program of study to be a true program of study, and will help, you know, these kids get the training they need to work towards their certification in that entrepreneurship course.
Any other questions for Dr. Sandro? And now I'll go ahead and entertain a motion on the recommendation by administration.
I move that it be approved as presented.
Second by Lieutenant Colonel Crates. Again, there's a motion in front of the floor, second by Lieutenant Colonel Crates to approve the TA approved initiative, innovative course entrepreneurship 2. Any further discussion? Now proceed to vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Dr. Sandro. Item 70, consider approval of purchases over $25,000 to be found on page 99 of your board book. Dr. Peter Pitts.
This purchase is for a consultant for assistance with our E-rate and also for assistance with the remote devices and hotspots that Dr. Vasquez presented at the budget workshop last week. So again, this consultant would assist with both of those. This is for the 2021-2022 school year. At this time, I'll take any questions.
So we're getting a consultant
to look after Dr. Cruz, is that what we're doing, or?
I'll let Dr. Vasquez-Cruz.
Yes, it is a twofold, and I know based EOA services. We do most of the paperwork, but again, it's a substantial amount of filing electronic forms. The EOA cycle is a very expensive process that begins with submitting the initial request. This is special form 470. It goes to 471. They have to send the invoicing. And at any given moment, we are dealing with 3 different funding years: the old year, the current year, and the future year. And right now, we are already preparing for the year 2022, even though we are very going to the year 21. The E-rate contract does not include the Marine Connectivity Fund. This is something very new. It came up about a couple of months ago. And during the board workshop, I presented the following. There is a 45-day window that is going to close around the 13th of this month. And the consultant is willing to charge $1,000 minimum, or 3% of the total funding amount. So the amount that you see in there might be a little bit stratospheric. It doesn't mean that it's going to be all of that, several $1,000s in there. I believe it's 66,000 possibly. But if we go for a lesser number, of course, the total amount is going to drop. So yeah, the consultant is necessary. We are pretty much in need of retaining documentation for a period of 10 years. It's not 3 years, it's not 5, it's 10. And this will include everything that is telecommunications, as well as everything that is network improvements and basic maintenance and equipment. So it is, again, a very lengthy process.
And the E-rate pays 90%?
Up to 90%, yes. Yes.
So that more than pays for.
Exactly. So just to give you an idea, and I have not been able to prepare the information because we are going as fast as we can. And but I will go ahead and do the write-up and present to Dr. Perez so she can share with the board, with all of you. But we recently got funded for over $500,000. And for that, we only pay about $17,000. So it is something that brings a tremendous benefit to the district because we're bringing equipment that normally we will not be able to pay with local money. We're getting discount allocation price.
All right, any further questions when it comes to the purchase over 25,000 for Dr. Pettis or Dr. Vasquez-Cruz? Okay, if not, do I hear a motion, a recommendation or a motion for any purchases for over 25,000 that has been presented to the board this week?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. David Garcia. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Is that you, Ms. Holmes?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Is there any further?
Thank you, both of you, sir. Thank you so much.
Is there any further discussion? And we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of approving the recommendation of administration for purchases over 25,000, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. 7F, consider approval of 2021-2022 proposed tax rate and public meeting date and time to discuss the 2021-2022 proposed budget and proposed tax rate. This can be found on page 101 of your board book. Dr. Fitz.
Thank you, Mr. Garza. We talked about what we're going to post in the paper at the budget workshop. I'll quickly review what we discussed. It does require, again, a board vote, so we are bringing that today. So what's left in the budget process is on Thursday, we post in the paper the tax rate that we're going to put in the paper. I'm sorry, we vote tonight on the tax rate we're going to put in the paper, and we also at the same time have to put the proposed budget that we presented at the budget workshop on our website at that time too. So tonight we are not voting on the tax rate. Tonight we are voting on what we're going to put in the paper of what we're proposing for the tax rate. And then it has to be posted for 10 days. And then after those 10 days on the 23rd, we'll have a public meeting. And then finally, the final vote will be on the 24th for the tax rate in the budget. So again, this right now is just for what is going to be posted on Thursday. And just a couple of highlights on the tax rate. Normally, when you want to increase the M&O tax rate, you have to have an election, a tax ratification election. You have to take that before your voters. There is one provision that allows you to circumvent that. I'm not going to recommend that, but because of Hurricane Hannah, TEA made a provision that if you could show that you had extra expenditures and had to raise the tax rate to cover those expenditures because of Hurricane Hannah, that you could improve the M&O rate without a tax ratification election. However, in consultation with Mo Casey, again, in our case, we didn't have excessive expenditures due to Hurricane Hannah. It would be a little bit disingenuous to increase the M&O tax rate without even bringing it before the voters, without having a lot of expenditures. And so what I am proposing is keeping the total tax rate the same as it has been for quite a while now, for about 10 years in the district. And they are compressing the M&O rate by about 2.5 cents. I'm proposing what we've done the last 2 years to shift those pennies over to the INS side. This will help cover our debt. We'll have about $40,000 less when we do this that we will not be able to cover our debt, but we have an INS fund balance. So this will set us up to take care of our debt. If we, again, vote to move the M&O pennies over to INS on the 24th, we will be in a good position for covering our debt for years to come. Finally, we'll be solving the issue where a long time ago, we moved all those pennies over from INS to M&O, and then that's put us in the situation where we haven't had enough money to cover our debt. So we've had to keep transferring money from our M&O fund. Finally, again, this will put us in a good position where we won't have that concern moving forward. So I'll take any questions that you have at this time.
There was concern last time about the dates of all this. Is that been settled?
Yes, ma'am. If you recall, remember, there was some concerns. We came back from executive session, made a motion to make sure that we were in compliance, to make sure that you are correct.
We're gonna have a public hearing on the 23rd, which would be the day before, instead of the hour before.
That's correct.
So again, and again, thank you, Dr. Pitts, for reminding me, we're not voting today on anything but, again, posting for the upcoming newspaper on Thursday.
That is correct.
Is there a motion to accept the recommendation by the administration?
I would recommend that if we do that, that we read verbatim.
Okay. So when the motion is made, I'll read it out a little bit.
Thank you.
Okay. Senator Prince.
Second.
Mr. James Wilson. There's a motion from the board to consider approval of 2021-22 proposed tax rate and public meeting date and time to discuss the 2021-2022 proposed budget, proposed tax rate. Any other further discussion? There's no other further discussion. I'll go ahead and read it real quick before we take a vote. Again, the motion before the board and been seconded to go with the recommendation by the administration is administration recommends that the board of trustees approve the posting of the proposed tax rate and public meeting date at the time in the Kingsville record on August 12th, 2021. The proposed M&O tax rate is $1.265 per 100, and the proposed INS tax rate is 49.24 cents per 100. The total proposed tax rate is $1.5189 per 100. The public meeting date and time to discuss the 2021-2022 proposed budget and proposed tax rate will be August the 23rd at 6 p.m. at the Kingsville Independent School District boardroom at 207 North 3rd Street, Kingsville, Texas 78363. So again, I've read the recommendation with the been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Dr. Pitts. You're welcome. Okay, item 7G, consider approval of revised memorandum of understanding between Kingsville Independent School District along with Community Action Corporation of South Texas Head Start, which is better known as KISD HS. That can be found on page 103 of your board book. Dr. Pitts.
I was visiting their facility this morning, and they have done a great job as far as making it appropriate for that age group. They're gonna have a little bit younger age group there. Again, they have shorter tables and desks that are appropriate for that, I guess, early childhood students. The one thing that they're requesting a revision on is the HVAC system, that if something goes wrong, that we would assist in the maintenance and repair of that equipment. We talked with them, and they are not able to continue with their charter with us unless they can show that not only do they have a facility, but they're also able to make sure it stays operational. We have already added in there that they are going to be paying us $810 a month for utilities. This is something that we feel strongly that we are partnering with this organization for our future students, that these kids will be students that continue with our district, and that this program is helping to prepare them for becoming students in our school district. So we are recommending that the board approve the revision for this MOU.
Thank you again. You heard the recommendation by administration in regards to approving the revised memorandum of understanding between KISD and KCOS. Is there a motion?
Discussion or question?
Tell you what, well, yeah, we got something else we're gonna do it
One
during.
quick question.
Absolutely.
Are we tracking these kids? And by tracking, I mean, they were there for 3 years. Where'd they go to kindergarten?
Yes. Yes, that will tell us, I mean, we are, I guess in a nutshell, yes.
I mean, that's kind of data I'm interested in. Okay, thank you.
Who prepared this MOU? Did it come from them or did we prepare it?
So this was a collaborative effort between them, between our side, and then between our attorneys and their attorneys. And there was a lot of back and forth there were some things that we wanted to add, there were some things that they wanted to add. So it was a collaborative effort on both sides.
If this has cleared our term.
Yes, including the revision.
Okay, he's not his head. Am I correct, Mr. Maddox?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Yes, sir. Any other further questions?
Real quick, Dr. Pitts, you gave us those figures a few months back, I think it was. The expenses we had there, because then we're talking about Claiborne Elementary, is that correct?
Correct.
What were the expenses of HVAC during last year's? Do we have a cost of that?
I can get that for you. I don't have that readily available.
But they're just using the portables, right?
They're using the wing that's the newest wing.
In the back, it's the same in the back?
So it wouldn't be all the utilities. I mean, we're still gonna have some
Correct. So
shut off.
the big building is not being currently used. The two areas that are being used are, number one, the area where Head Start is, which is by the teacher's parking lot. There is that small building that has 7 classrooms and a few offices. Then the other buildings that we are using are those 4 buildings in a row there's a front gate that leads to a gravel parking lot, and there's 4 rooms in a row that are being used by CIS for the food pantry, by 1 classroom for our CARES program. One of the classrooms is being moved from HMK to the Claybrook Center, and then the third one is the GED program through ESC2.
Is that, those programs that you mentioned, are those gonna be used in that one wing in the back? Or are they gonna open up the whole school?
No, those are all going to be used in that one wing in the back. So there's 4 classrooms in a row that all those other organizations are going to use, all in one building.
Has the sign been changed?
No, the sign has not been changed yet. That is something that we can try to get done to the best of our ability.
We got the design, it was just paying for it. We asked a group of people from the county to see if they would be willing to help pay for it. And we were supposed to regroup with them to see if they can, and we had said, well, if we haven't done that yet, we still need to go ahead and move forward with it. But the design was from Memorandum, correct?
That's
Yeah.
correct.
What's the cost?
It'd be about $3,100.
Dr. Pitts, real quick, because we're gonna carry internet services as well, is that correct?
That is correct.
And they want us to keep up with the HVAC, okay?
So they're gonna pay us $810 a month for all the utilities. We did the best job we could to estimate ahead of time, and we let them know that we would regroup if we decide to continue next year and look at their expenditures for this year and see if that $810 is accurate.
Yeah, that's kind of low, I think, but the insurance is gonna be carried by KISD just for their building, just for their usage, or for that whole entire?
No, so the insurance for them would just be that one building, and it would just be on property and casualty for them for that one building.
Where their students,
Where their
kids
students are,
housed, right?
correct.
Not our programs that we're gonna be implementing.
Correct.
So who's paying for the utilities, like for the service staff for the service?
Right, they're gonna be paying their own. We're working on MOU. We already have the MOU with CIS. Now, the agreement for CIS was that we would be paying the utilities because that is for the food bank that they're providing for our students. But with Region 2, the MOU that we're working on, they will be paying for the one classroom that they're gonna be using.
So will those be up and running day one?
I believe they are. The factor is not really the building, the factor is the MOU. If we can bring you the MOU on the 24th, then they can be up and operational. But again, the MOU has been sent to them probably 6 weeks ago, and we're waiting on their side for a response. Well, I haven't given them a deadline. I've given them a deadline to be presented at this board meeting, and they did not meet that deadline, and at the last 2 board meetings as well.
How old is the air conditioning system in this part of the building?
That's something that I'll have to look into.
Are they for profit or non-profit, Dr. Pitts, do you know?
True.
KISD.
I thought they were non-profit.
I think they're, again, don't quote me, Trustee Garcia, but I think they're a nonprofit 501c3.
I'll look into that as well too.
Any further questions?
Real quick, I know that, I don't know who do I address, but I know the principal for Claiborne last year is here. Can we maybe ask if they had problems with it, or?
Unfortunately, she's not.
I don't see that here.
Okay, I must have mistaken, I'm sorry.
That's okay, but.
You're talking about the HVAC system. Last year, I don't remember any big expenditures that came through me for the HVAC system at Claiborne.
And I think what we're kind of hesitant about is HVAC can get expensive. And I think this board doesn't want to get put in the corner with that expense, along with them saying, well, where's the other air filtration systems that we do have that we don't have? I think that's kind of, I think, and again, maybe, I shouldn't be talking on behalf of all the board, but that's maybe what I think that we're just kind of like, want to make sure that, again, these can break at any time. It's the chance you take. But again,
it's also one of the reasons that we chose to lease out the building was to get out from under this.
Right.
And so if we're still going to have to deal with it and provide for it, then I have an issue with leasing it out.
Well, and that's the thing, because we did the Boys and Girls Club, and they're taking care of everything, am I correct?
They are paying the utilities.
But if the AC
And if
breaks,
anything
they're-
breaks down in the AC?
So
Use it.
in that agreement, we didn't have anything one way or the other in that agreement.
I don't, I was under something that we weren't gonna take care of anything.
If they broke something, they're responsible for it. Same thing with KISD. If they break something, they're responsible for it. If it just breaks on its own, they're asking that we repair it.
Hey, I'm okay with CIS and I'm okay with the new programs that we're trying to implement. We take care of that. You know, but we've got, we need to find out if they're a nonprofit or a for-profit. I believe they're for-profit, but, that's really kind of a,
Head Start is a for-profit?
I do not know the answer, but I could probably text or call and get the answer.
Right.
Isn't the horse somewhat out of the barn?
Yeah.
Plus, they're gonna be educating the children,
I mean,
0 to 4.
Kids are coming.
yeah, and I'm okay with that, but we haven't tracked where these kids are going. The whole purpose of doing that was to get these kids and bring them into KISD, right? Now, we don't know that. We don't, that's what Mr. Christ was talking about.
That was my,
You know, so-
that was my.
It's an investment, pretty much.
If the kids are coming here.
Yeah, but what
What's
kind of
the need?
example is that if these kids are going to this Head Start and it breaks and we can't fix it for 2 weeks and these kids have to scramble, that's not setting a very good example of what KISD could be if they came.
I'm more concerned about the efficacy of the program. If we got 100 kids going, but only 50 go to KISD, that means 50 are going somewhere else. Now, I won't know that now. I may know that a couple of years from
We
now,
won't know that unless we're tracking them.
because we're tracking them. So as long as we're tracking them, that's fine. But the horse is out of the barn. We said we're gonna do it. All the wheels have turned. The people have been hired. Now, this is a wrench in it, but it's not a wrench. It's gonna stop the machine from running.
Well, so I've talked to them about the same issue and I've voiced my concerns to them as, you're the same concerns to them. So you're right, we already have the initial MOU. So basically, they're already all moved in. They're ready to receive kids, ready to go. Their concern is just that if something were to happen and they didn't have the money to fix it, that their charter will not allow them to get a building without a provision or some assurance that the facility would be taken care of if there was a problem.
They've already told us they don't have the money because they wrote the MOU for us to pick up the tab. So they're not gonna have the money. So the issue is, are we gonna throw a little bit more in the pot to get something that supposedly we all thought was a great idea 3 months ago? I mean, that's basically what it comes down to.
I think it's like renters, when you go rent an apartment, if the AC breaks down.
Chapter 92.
You're paying for your utilities. But if the AC
You
breaks
don't,
down, you
no,
don't,
landlord pays
yeah,
for
the
it.
landlord pays for it, so, but in this instance, we're hoping that these children and these staff members we're building relationships with, that they'll want to continue with KISD, especially if we're helping to educate some of their parents who may be getting their GED or their diploma. So, you know, there's no guarantee because we don't know what's going to happen in a few years from now, if all the children will come to us, but that is one way that they may.
And again, just real quick to add, it was brought to my attention that the KISD is a nonprofit, but they are nonprofit. But again, keep in mind, board, that we've had, I think KISD has been part of KISD for many years. And again, unfortunately, we did not have a tracking system. Again, what's behind the rearview mirror, we cannot do anything about it. But I think, you know, with the administration where we're going, I think, you know, and continue to work in collaboration. Again, our biggest salespeople will be KISD to see the great things that this district is doing and working in collaboration with them to push those kids to come to us to get them educated, because we know that at the end of the day, the KISD is their best route. So with that, I go ahead and move that we approve the revised memorandum of understanding between Kingsville Independent School District and Community Action Corporation of South Texas KISD presented by the board. By administration, I'm sorry.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded by Mr. Brian Kufal. Is there any other further discussion? If not, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay.
No.
Motion carries 6-1, Mr. Garcia. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Dr. Pitts. Well, we can stay up there. 7H, consider approval of county tax assessor collector certification of 2020 excess debt collection and certification of 2021 anticipated collection rate for the interest of sinking fund be found on page 113 of the board book. Dr. Pitts.
Every year, the tax assessor collector sends us these two documents. One is basically how we ended up with tax collections in INS the year that's ending, and two, what is anticipated the following year. They are certifying that we did not collect extra taxes to pay our debt more than than the debt that we had, and that they are also anticipating 100% collection rate next year. Now, in actuality, we never receive 100%. We're usually closer to 96 or 97%, but they always put that they're going to anticipate 100% for collections for next year. At this time, I'll take any questions on these documents.
Again, is there any questions for Dr. Pitts? If not, is there a motion to accept the recommendation from administration to the Board of Trustees approve the certification of excess debt collections of 2020 and the 2021 anticipated collection rate for the interest in sinking fund? Moved by Ms. Elizabeth Ramos. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Joma Salinas. Any further discussion? Now proceed to vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Dr. Pitts. Okay, item number 8, the board will enter into closed session in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code 551.071 and 551.074 to deliberate and consider the following. Item 8A, discussion with legal counsel regarding legal and personnel matters. No action will be taken until we return to open session. We are now entering closed session at approximately 7:10. Before we go into executive session, on behalf of the Board of Trustees, I know we won't have another board meeting till the day after school, which will be on April the 24th. We want to wish all our administrators, along with your staff, your faculty, and everybody, a great, wonderful year. So again, thank you so much and good luck to y'all.
Thank you.
Audio is open.
Ready, sir?
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Los Cruz. We return to open session and take necessary action on matters which the board may discuss in open session and upon which action may be taken. We now enter open session at approximately 8:10 p.m. With there being no further action to come before this board, I declare this meeting adjourned at approximately 8:11.